What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are well today. I'm well. It's been a great day today. But last video we covered um, rebound relationships, speaking about what they are and what those things will do to you if you choose to go down that road. Now, as we spoke about, yeah, probably not the best idea to do that because there's so many areas of your life that just have not been taken care of yet. And the last thing you want to do is get yourself into a relationship that you can't get out of. Like, you might be able to end the relationship, but if you're looking for sex and you get what you want, and now that woman ends up pregnant, you stuck with her no matter what for 18 years, and that's just the last thing that you want. Some people don't think about what they focus on as the action, but not the consequence of the action. So it's like, okay, the action is I want sex. But what are the consequences of that action? What are the consequences that could come from that? And look at it as deep as possible. Child, right? That's really what could come from that. Even if you're trying to be as safe as possible, that's still a possibility. Um, so it's like, yeah, you don't want that for your life. So the best thing to do is to keep that away from your life. And that's why I say reboundaries or the rebound relationship, which I coin it reboundaries, is just good to stay away from for your own sanity and your health overall. So the one thing that I want to talk about is how to avoid the rebound relationships. Now, this could be, information that you've heard before, but these are the things that are going to help you to stay away from the rebound relationship because that's something that you're going to need to know. So it's like, yeah, you want to stay away from it, and maybe you don't know how. So I'm going to give you 4 different tips that you can use to stay away from the rebound relationship. Okay. So number one, you want to make sure. Now, again, if you've heard these before, it's completely fine. But number one, you got to set boundaries for yourself, right? Most people who get into rebound relationships did not have any boundaries, or they did and they were compromised for some reason. Whatever happened in the past has caused them to let those boundaries go. Like they've taken down their wall in some areas and then put it up in other places. You have to set boundaries for yourself, really sharp ones too. Like, I am going to just focus on going to the gym for every day for 2 hours. Okay, that's a boundary, right? It is your boundary because that means that anything else that comes inside of that, like, or outside of those areas, right? If you say I'm going to go before 10 for a few hours, then anything before 10 should be limited, right? To ensure that you make it to the gym before 10. So that keeps that there. I'm not going to eat certain things today. Okay, well, how do you do that? Set that boundary, because what? It's so easy when you say this is what I want to do, but then someone calls you and says, "Hey, let's go out to eat." Well, now you got an option. Do you stick to the boundary that you set for yourself, or do you compromise it? So same thing comes to relationships. When you're fresh out of a relationship, a divorce, the last thing that you want to do is get into a relationship right after that. That's a boundary, a hard boundary that you need to set for yourself so that you can take some time to heal. So it's like you might feel that you're completely healed, right? But there's so many things that you just haven't experienced yet that you're not prepared for. And you want to make sure you can try to cover as many of those areas um, before you allow yourself to get into another relationship with another woman. So set boundaries for yourself. You'll be glad that you did. It's going to be extremely helpful for you and the person who comes into your life next. Number 2 is being able to meet with like a counselor or a therapist. Like, that's really, really helpful. I was able to take my time. I did that for about 2 months. Her name was Suzanne. Suzanne was awesome. She was tough, but she was awesome. She had a lot of questions, a lot of like head scratchers for me, like, and I really had to make sure that I knew what I was doing. It's not that I wanted the divorce, but eventually just added to that. Like, I'm the one who ended up saying, like, yes, ultimately this is it. I want to end the relationship, but it was because my ex was still in another relationship and she wasn't willing to get out of it. So I had to make that decision. But I still went to counseling after that because it was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make in my life. And I just really pray for men who are still married right now that you really are taking time to think about that. Like, do you really want to do that? And if you have not been to counseling or going to a therapist, I would encourage you to do that. It doesn't require just for you to be divorced to go to a counselor. But while you're married, while you're in a relationship, that would be the perfect time for you to go and get into a counselor or a therapist who can really help you understand like the devastation that's going on in your life right now, because you don't fully understand it. You can say you do, but are you only looking at it from your perspective? Because if so, then you don't understand everything. You are not counselor. You're not counselor or therapist. That's not your name. These people go to school for a reason, to study this stuff and really try to help people. And all I know is it helped me a lot. May not have achieved the goal, which was for me at the time, getting back into my marriage again, but it really helped me to put other things in perspective in my life to help me recognize like areas that I could still be better and areas that I could improve, things that I was just so focused on the other person for what they did, how they did what they did. Why would they do this for? How could this happen like this? I can't believe all this. Well, the hard questions start coming when the questions are asked of you, not what someone else did, but what did you do? What could you have done better? And that's why it's so good to get that time, in front of a counselor or a therapist. If you're not willing to take the time to talk to someone, a close friend, then why not go talk to someone who doesn't know you, someone who's not biased, who's going to, be able to like look at both sides and really help you to see things differently. So I would really encourage you to look at counseling, therapy, depending on the level of what you're dealing with, and really get in there and just be vulnerable enough to share those things with somebody who can really try to help you. And if that doesn't feel right for you, then do you have any family or friends who are good people who are looking to help you grow and be successful and really want to see the best in you and through your life? And if you have anyone like that, utilize them. But like I say, the counseling and therapy is just because they have a lot of different types of questions that our friends may not always know how to bring up, and so that's why I say it's really important. I spent, like I said, 2 months there. It was very helpful for me. I learned a lot about myself, and I took all the thoughts of what my ex did and really had to look at the things that I could improve on and be better, because ultimately that's what this is all about. Everything about this is for men to get better, to learn, grow, and change. And so we have to take the focus off of the other person and put it onto us and really work on improving our lives, because it's possible. Number 3 is books. I don't know what types of books you're reading, but I've talked about this before, but you have to read books. Like, books are extremely important. There's so much information in them, and it's going to help you see just a different thing. Like, so again, the counseling and therapy is very helpful. Books are just as helpful. The book for me that I read the most is the Bible. The Bible is like my ultimate source when it comes to really trying to grow and learn and change and just be a better man. But there are also other books that are out there that can be extremely helpful. So again, if you're dealing with anger, find books on anger. If you're dealing with fear, find books on fear. If you're dealing with jealousy, find books on jealousy. There's so many books that are out there that will help you to see things specifically so you can target those very key areas for your life and not just read something overall, right? So you really pay attention, like, what am I dealing with right now? What is my biggest gripe? What is my biggest problem? What am I dealing with? And once you really spend time thinking about that, that's the area that you attack immediately. Get the book, find the book, where you go on YouTube or whatever. If there's courses on there, YouTube got everything. But I would get some books, being able to take some time, read it, write some notes down, because you retain a lot more information when you write it down. And then you can go back and study it. You can go back and read through it when your mind starts going a certain way, right? So again, number 1, boundaries. Number 2, counseling, therapy. Number 3, get a good book in you. Maybe a few. You probably know you need more than one, right? I know I need more than one. Let's be real. And I got more than one. And then number 4 is stay away from social media as much as you can. Limit your online presence as much as possible. The reason I say that is because, men, come on now. We are visually stimulated. And the things we get stimulated by things that we hear, and we get stimulated by the things that we see. Women don't move exactly like that, but men, we do. The reason I say those things is because the last thing you want to do is end up watching something or seeing something that you're trying to keep your mind right. You know what I mean? Like, okay, porn, stay away from porn because it's so easy to run to when you're lonely and you're by yourself and there's no one else around and you're not really ready for a relationship or whatever the case it is. Porn is just as bad as messing with somebody else. Like it to me, it's worse. But because it's the mental that goes on, that's completely different, and it can get very dark. It can get really dark if you're gonna delve into that stuff. So the reason I say to limit your online presence as much as possible is because most likely you don't have filters. Most likely you do not have filters on any of your social media, right? Like keeping certain things out of the picture so you can't see any, X-rated content or whatever the case it is. I'm sure you don't care. You're strong enough, right? Mentally, you're like, man, I'm good. I'll be all right. I don't need to worry about X, Y, and Z. I should be straight. And for the most part, you might be until the day where you're not. And that's usually 99.99% of the time. So the reason I say to limit it is because it's so hard to keep your focus on you when you're allowing yourself to be distracted by other women who aren't even trying to be on your radar, but they're there. It's like you can't get away from it sometimes. You cannot get away from the tits, the butts. It's just like you can try to do everything to avoid it, but no matter where you go, they're just there. So the only way you can really avoid that is to try to limit your online presence, right? Try to stay away from social media as much as you can, unless it's something that you do for business, right? And even there, what are you going to do to make sure you have like a better fail-safe way to keep your eyes, corrected, to keep your mind corrected, to keep your heart in the right place. And those are the things that are very important. I'm here at Trader Joe's and it's hecka busy. Like I don't see no parking. If that part, it's too small, can't do it. But it's really going to be up to you to make sure you put stuff in front of you that is going to help you grow, not things that are going to destroy you, right? So again, we've covered 4 areas here. Number 1, boundaries. Number 2, counseling, therapy. Number 3 is getting some books in you. And number 4, limit your online presence as much as possible. I promise if you do those things, you're going to help yourself so much more than you probably would ever think or imagine. And so those are my 4 little tips. I hope that they're helpful for you. I'm going to look for a parking spot safely. But in the meantime, have a great day, you guys, and we will talk soon. See you.